And welcome. Oh, wait. Hold on one second. Got to get the recording started. False alarm. All right. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
And welcome to episode number 119 of The Showrunner. I am Jared Morris, serial podcast host and eternal believer in the power of balancing pride and humility. And here with me, as always, is my co-host, Johnny Nastor, punk rock drummer, serial t-shirt wearer, and the host of the world-renowned Hack the Entrepreneur. We are your podcasting mentors, excited to be with you for another week of talking about not just how to podcast, but more specifically, how to drive meaningful results from a podcast-centered marketing strategy. And this week, we are going to share with you 3 important tips that we took away from listening to a show hosted by one of your fellow showrunners. These are tips that will help you create a better audio experience for your listeners, and they will help you better define your positioning in the minds of your listeners, which is something that you can't just do once, but that needs to be an ongoing part of your message. Before we get to all of that, though, it's time to welcome in my co-host, Johnny Nastor. Johnny, what is the most meaningful result that your podcast helped you achieve this week?
Good question. The most meaningful result my podcast helped me achieve was not for my podcast specifically, but it was for a client of mine who I acquired through, or that client found me originally through my podcast. And I've been working with him and getting guest posts on some great sites, but he actually got a post published by today.com in their parenting section, and has become an official contributor and has the badge for his website now. And I was pretty excited about that because it took us some doing, but it felt really good to see him get that win. And so that would be my most meaningful result this week.
Very cool. And it's cool that it was a meaningful result that was you kind of helping somebody else out. That's right. I find that it's a lot more meaningful when it's someone else and you've kind of helped them achieve it. It's even better than when it's just something for yourself. So that's really cool. Very cool. Okay. So if this is your first time listening to The Showrunner, I just want to say welcome. We're glad that you're here, and we hope that you find the education and inspiration that you're looking for. You may find that this is not your typical podcast about podcasting, and that is exactly the way that we want it. If you have been with us before, welcome back. We appreciate you being with us again, and we hope to be better today than we were the last time. Now, whether you're a newbie or a grizzled showrunner veteran, if at any point during your journey with us, you decide that you want more, that you want to get serious and take the next step as not just a podcaster, but as a showrunner, we are ready for you. So we have a complete end-to-end course on how to develop, launch, and run a remarkable podcast at our website, showrunner.fm. Just visit showrunner.fm and you will see the big red button that says join the course. Hit that. You'll find out more details. And if you're not ready to make that level of investment in your show running future yet, we're still ready for you. Visit our homepage anyway, showrunner.fm. Drop your email address into the field that you will see right there at the top of the page. That is the best way to stay connected with us and with the show, is to get on our email list. And if all you want to do is just listen on, we are ready for you too. We've got an informative and inspirational episode prepared for you, and let's get to that right now. So, Johnny, you and I are really lucky to be able to work with so many talented and committed showrunners, both, people who have been in the course with us, people that we have met, just through the show, that have emailed us, that have asked for help, people that we've met at presentations and at meetups. And I've really learned a lot from them, and I hope they've learned from us, but I've also learned a lot from them by subscribing to their shows and listening to what they're doing and some of the creative ideas that they have. And last week, while I was preparing breakfast for my family, as I do every morning, I decided to pop on the show of one of our showrunners, Jamar Dupas. His show is called Get Your Money Right. And the reason why I listened to this, I've listened to it before, but I was really intrigued by a headline that popped up in my feed, and it was When Money Isn't Real. And I knew that he kind of had an ongoing series about how to teach your kids about money, which is something, even though my daughter's only 22 months old, I'm, trying to get a head start on learning about. And listening to this episode of Jamar's really served as an inspiration for this episode of The Showrunner, and in fact, some of the changes that we made to the intro of this podcast, which you may have noticed, Johnny, which you may have noticed because I just sprung them on you and I didn't really prepare you for them before we went live here. But since, and I've mentioned this a little bit, but since producing the assembly call has gotten me comfortable with kind of playing music and sound clips during live recordings, I figured I should bring some of that newfound experience here. And so I actually pulled some clips from Jamar's show so that I can really show you what struck me. And then, Johnny, you and I can break it down and kind of discuss how these tactics can be worked into all of our own shows. So do you have any initial thoughts before we hop in? And again, I've got 3 takeaways, and we'll hop in and do the first one.
I'm really looking forward to this because you're right. You didn't run this by me. And so I'm hearing music for the first time. I'm entering questions for the first time, and I'm enjoying it. So,
well, we've done 119 episodes together, and I find sometimes we get a nice live energy when there's spontaneity and when you don't know what's coming.
I agree.
It's a little more fun that way. Okay, so let's go into the first takeaway. And my first takeaway from Jamar's show is how he used the introduction and how he uses the introduction to all of his shows really to welcome and orient listeners to what makes his show different, which is really essential for making your positioning clear. And obviously that's something that we've been talking a lot about recently. We just launched a course about positioning, which I'll talk a little bit more about here in a minute. But I want you to listen to this. So I've got a clip. This one's about a minute long. So I'm going to play the full clip just so you can hear it in its entirety, and then we can break it up a little bit. But again, I'm going to play this clip and really listen to how he welcomes his listeners and how he orients them to what makes his show different. Here's clip number 1 from Jamar DuPas's show.
So stay tuned for that. If this is your first time tuning in, I'd like to say welcome. Thanks for being here. I don't know how you found me, but I appreciate you being here. This is a different type of personal finance podcast. We talk about money as it relates to real life, because not only do we want you to get your money, we really want you to get your money, understand your money so you can use it to do the things that you want to do, live the life you want to live, leave the legacy you want to live, and all that good stuff. So if you want to find out more about what we do and how we do it, head over to our website at yourmoneyright.com. Again, that's yourmoneyright.com. There you'll find that you'll be able to find all the past episodes that we have listed with the show notes. Also a link to our Facebook group, The Money Misfits. And of course, you can sign up to get my best stuff right there via email. I give out the very best stuff there, and we do most of our correspondence and all that good stuff. You learn about our consulting, and you learn about different tactics and stuff like that on that email list. So check that out again at yourmoneyright.com. But let me get on to it.
Okay, so several things that I like about that. The first thing that I like is how he welcomes first-time listeners. And I don't think this is necessary, but I think it's nice. And I think it's nice in the way that he did it, because I think when you do that, it suggests to people who are there for the first time, number one, that they're welcome, but also that they are stumbling onto something that is established. And that by being there and that by becoming a consistent listener, they could really become a part of something because others are. So I think there's a subtle message there in welcoming your first-time listeners that I like, and that really struck me, and that's why I added that to our intro. But here's what I love about this, all right? Johnny, you and I have talked about kind of our big positioning idea, right? Which is, and we talk about this in the positioning course, when you're trying to figure out what really differentiates your show, fill in the blanks of this sentence. Unlike most shows about blank, my show is blank, which means blank. Now, I don't know if Jamar used that exact template for this, but when you listen to how he described his show, I mean, it is almost exactly that. He says this is a different type of personal finance podcast. So there you go. Unlike most shows about personal finance, he says we talk about money as it relates to real life. So unlike most shows about personal finance, we talk about money as it relates to real life. And then the rest of it, which is the which means blank part, is because not only do we want you to be able to get your money, we really want you to get your money. So earn money, but also understand your money so you can use it to do the things you want to do in life, live the life you want to live, leave the legacy you want to leave. I love that introduction, and I love how right there in the beginning, he lays it out there. This is what we are. This is why we're different. And this is what that difference means. And I think it's just such a smart way, because there's a lot of personal finance podcasts out there, and it's such a smart way to right off the bat let people know what is the difference that you're going to get listening to this. And I've got another kind of takeaway from that, but I want to get your thoughts, Johnny, on just on that intro in general, and then how Jamar uses it to really make his positioning clear.
Yeah, I agree that he does it. It almost looks like it's from that template, and I guess because, I mean, most of us, I think, enter markets that are that there's a lot of shows and a lot of shows that are very similar. And he's going really sort of contrary to it in a way, which I feel that like I've done, and lots of people who do have shows that have been positioned well are doing, to the point where it's great to put that out there right there. Because I think if you're a first-time listener, I know I was a first-time listener when I listened to it earlier today. And I'm really kind of turned off by personal finance. I find it boring and drab and stuff. And that intro caught me because it was like, cool, because I know that I don't like the typical personal finance show. And so he instantly caught me, and it's like, I think this might be for me. Sort of, and it was really interesting in that way. Finding your sort of differentiator, but then also just putting it right there in front, clearly stating it so people are cool, either yes or no, where they're either in or they're not, and they kind of get the buy-in right there. I like that.
And then the other thing that I liked about this, and the reason why I extended it, for kind of 30 more seconds there, is where Jamar kind of tells you how to get more. And this is where I think the orientation part is really important. So people are coming to the podcast, but Johnny, and we've changed our positioning a little bit to where we're really talking about not just podcasting, but how to succeed with a podcast-centered marketing strategy. So you've got your podcast, that's great, but your podcast should probably be, part of something bigger. And so he orients people to this by talking about, consulting that he does, and the website and the courses and all the different things, where it's like, here's this podcast, but this is part of something bigger. And, this is beneficial, not just for driving results. I mean, obviously it's a call to action, and you want people to take you up on it. You want people to go to the website. But I think the other thing that it does when you do it right is it has a subtle way of establishing credibility. So it's like, okay, I'm listening to this guy's podcast. He's told me, what the positioning is. I understand what's different. Oh, wait. And this guy also consults, and he's got a course, and he has an email list. So he's really like all in on this content. He's got experience. He's got other people that are, paying him money for this. This is somebody to listen to. And so we often talk about the calls to action at the end of the show, and I think that's a good place for them. But I think doing it like he did and not taking up too much time, but just putting it out there, helps not just getting people to the website, but I think also helps establish the credibility too. And
I don't want to do this to you, Jamar, but I love the call to actions at the beginning as well. I think they're great, but I think there should only be one. To me, it was a bit too much like, here's everything. And to me, if you have everything, you don't really. I loved it. It was like, go to the website. And then it went in like either the Facebook group, I think, or the website, I think should be the first one. Probably the Facebook group, because it's a community, right? It's a great place where they can kind of get deeper. So that would be my only thing, is just people need to be told, listeners need to be told like exactly what to do, sort of thing, not sort of here's options. Once we have options, I think we kind of get distracted and go somewhere else. And you could use a different call to action at the end if you wanted, or in the middle, but I think there should be confidently, here's what you should do next to get more. And then you could even change it each episode if you wish, but I really like clear call to actions.
So what you're saying is we need to change the intro that I did, where I had a couple different calls to action there.
Yeah, I think that I think it's your job as the host to pick what you think people should do and to know what is the best next step for them. And me as a listener, I'm going to trust your opinion and be like, okay, that's the next thing to do. Here's what you should do next. I love that, because it's not like, well, because we all have websites. Lots of us have Facebook. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of that. And it's kind of like, you can kind of just maybe gloss over it as a listener rather than clearly being told, you should do this next if you want more.
So you can run down different things that you do. Like Jamar could say, I consult and I blog about this topic, yada, yada. Go to my website, getyourmoneyright.com, sign up for the email list right now. It's the best way to stay connected.
Yeah.
So you can mention things that you do, but then you tell people one action to take.
Yeah.
Okay. And like what I did in the intro to this one, where, you talk about the course, then talked about the website and the email list, pick one so people know where to go. And then you can tell them the next step after they do that step. I think you're right.
Yeah, like definitively, to me, it's not necessarily a call to action if it's more, here's the whole platter. The call to action to me is, here is the action you should take.
Okay. I like that. I Agree with you. Okay, and
And again,
speaking.
Jarmar, I love your intro. I love your intro. Sorry, I didn't want to. I don't want to tell you it's no good because it was really good when I heard it the first time today.
No, but that's good. That's good feedback. Okay, so speaking of calls to action, and speaking of positioning, as I mentioned, our new podcast positioning course is officially launched. And the good news, if you are listening to this episode in the first 36 hours after it was published, is that you can still get the special launch pricing before the price goes up on Wednesday, June 20th at midnight. Just go to showrunner.fm/podcast-positioning. Now, what is the course? Well, it is a comprehensive guide to crafting a unique podcast that will stand out, get noticed, and help you connect with your ideal audience so that you can drive meaningful results with your show. It features a comprehensive set of lessons, it features detailed worksheets, and several Q&As with me and Johnny where we get the chance to answer your questions that are specific to your situation. And the reason why this course is essential and why we put so much time into developing it is that there are 550,000 active podcasts in Apple Podcasts. Yeah, that's a lot. And all of those shows are a major threat to you building a loyal audience if your show is just like everyone else's. But if you stand out, if you position your show in a smart, strategic way, then the growing number of shows and all of the new podcast listeners they will bring in actually represent an opportunity, not a threat. But you have to get your positioning right, and we want to help you do it. So again, go to showrunner.fm/podcast-positioning to learn more about the course and to decide if following our path to creating a unique show that cuts through the noise and really gets heard is right for you. The 31% launch discount ends Wednesday, June 20th at midnight. Again, showrunner.fm/podcast-positioning. Okay, so Johnny, let's continue on here. We are talking about 3 ways that one particular showrunner is getting his podcast right. And we're talking about Jamar Dupas and his show, Get Your Money Right. So we just talked about how Jamar uses his introduction to welcome and to orient listeners and to really make his positioning clear. And what I want to talk about for number 2 is how he uses framing in his introduction, how he uses framing and strong strategic word choice to prime the audience to have a positive experience. So I've got a few clips here that I want to play that really illustrate this. And so this first clip, this is the very beginning of the show. And so what Jamar does is he hits the audience right away, basically pulling a clip out from the middle of the show that creates a strong first impression and builds some curiosity and urgency for the episode. So this is before any music. This is before Jamar's voice is heard. And this is one of those things like I heard this, and then you combine it with the headline, and I absolutely had to keep listening. So here's the clip that he played at the very beginning.
I believe that kids today are being raised in a world where money is no longer real. It's actually an illusion, but it has very real consequences.
MPS.
It's so good.
Yeah, and then so you hear the music come in. So that is a clip from the TED Talk that serves as the featured content for this episode. And it's just, I mean, it really hits at the heart of what someone is going to be interested in if they were interested by that headline. It's just, there's such great congruency there between the headline and that opening clip. And that's, we used to do that on the lead, kind of pull a piece out like that. And it does require a little bit of extra time. It's going to add to your post-production. But when it's done well, and I thought in that case it was done really well, it really helps to frame the beginning of the episode to build that impulse that gets people going. And that's the kind of thing that can pull people. If you're going to spend 2 or 3 minutes orienting people, giving an introduction, talking about your stuff, people have to have a strong reason to get through that. And if you can do something like that at the beginning, that can help pull them through to get them to the meat of your episode. What do you think about that, John?
It's one of my favorite parts, is like not even just of your show, John. I love when not enough shows do this. And the part you pull out is so perfect because you're right. It's, again, I go into it thinking that this isn't for me because personal finance is just not my thing. But then that I was like, whoa, like what a lead into it. Like, just like, oh man, come on, now I got to listen to the whole thing. So I thought it was brilliantly done.
By the way, we'll have a link to the episode in the show notes because obviously we were big fans of it. So we recommend that you listen to it. So you'll get that link in the show notes. Okay, so now the next clip. So what this clip does, and this comes about a minute in, is he teases the main topic to further set the hook before he goes into talking about his show. And that's the clip I played earlier in segment 1. So this is right before that. And the other reason I like this is Jamar also sets the stage for this episode being different. You know, people come to your show, you're the host, and they have a certain expectation, especially if your show follows a similar format, you know, every single time. And so what Jamar does here is he lets people know this is going to be different. He says it's not going to be me talking because, as he explains, he was kind of feeling sick. He was coughing. He couldn't really get through doing an episode. So he decided to do something different. And what I loved about this, and this is really what hooked me as I started listening, is he used the phrase an audio experience. You know, and he says, you know, what I'm going to let you do, I'm going to give you an audio experience. And it really made it sound like something special. You know, it was like, okay, I'm not going to be here. And it wasn't just, you know, I've got, you know, something to replace it. You know, I'm going to pull, you know, something from the archive, or, you know, I'm just going to pull this TED Talk. That phrase audio experience just framed it in such a way to make it seem really special. So here, listen to the clip right here.
I am your host, the Money Misfit, Jamar Dupas. This is episode number 93. And today we talk about what to do when money isn't real. And actually, it's not going to be me talking. It's going to be an audio experience that I want you guys to pay attention to and listen to. So stay tuned for that. If this is your first time tuning in, I'd like to say welcome.
It's not going to be an audio experience. It's actually not going to be me talking to you. And you just, Johnny, I love the way that he framed that and really builds that impulse for, okay, an audio experience, you know, and there's that authority of, you know, that I'm going to share with you because he's the gatekeeper to this information, to this content. So I just really like the framing and the specific word choice that he used there.
And he's still sort of building up anticipation where I don't fully know what's really happening. It's cool. Like there's the intro at the very, very beginning with the guy talking, and now I'm still sort of waiting, and I hadn't heard what he does in this episode done before. So it was a good build up to it. And I like how he turns being sick and having a cold into like a positive. Like this is you're going to get something, this audio experience out of this. Not, well, I'm going to replay an old episode because I'm sick and that's all you're getting today. It's like, no, you're going to get something, this experience. That's amazing to me. Like turning this negative sort of thing into this like positive for the listener. Smart, man. Very smart.
Very. Okay, and this last clip gets into a little bit more of that. So this is where Jamar actually provides the explanation for why this week's episode is different. And I think when you do that, it subtly builds trust. You know, it's not just, hey, you're my audience, you'll listen to anything that I throw out, and he just puts a TED Talk out there. It's, look, I know that you expect a certain thing. That thing is going to be different this week. Here's why. But I still, even though I couldn't necessarily speak, I still put some effort in to create an audio experience for you. Like, I think that's the subtle message that you get. So I think it really builds trust with your audience. And it just, again, I like the phrasing. And you'll hear in this clip, he uses the phrase, what I've done is decided to let you listen into. Like, there's just a subtle authority, you know, like a kind of a level of control. Like, you know, this is my podcast. I'm in control of this experience. And you're just guiding people, and you just go right along with him because you trust him. And then what he does at the end of this clip is he doesn't just throw the TED Talk out there, assuming that, oh, if it's a TED Talk, you know, people will understand why that's important. He relates it to what they've been talking to. So why this is a relevant part of the journey that he's been taking them on over previous episodes, provides the context for why it's important, and then provides some credibility about it, you know, that it's got 2 million views. So here, listen to this clip. The final clip from Get Your Money Right by Jamar Dupas.
But let me get on to it. If you don't notice, you can't hear, I'm a little under the weather. I can't stop coughing. And I tried to record and I just couldn't stop it. And so what I've done is decided to let you listen into one of my favorite TEDx talks when it comes to money. And it's so fitting since we've been talking about children and money and how it relates to not only now and raising them up, but how money has changed and will be changing in the future. And this is a talk given by Adam Carroll, who this video has over 2 million views. And I'll put a link to the video in the show notes, but I'm going to let you listen to the audio here.
Yeah. So again, it's just, you know, getting back to the big idea here for the second takeaway is using framing and strategic word choice to prime the audience to have a positive experience. Because there is absolutely a way with the exact same TED Talk to have a different intro and to lose everybody before they get to the TED Talk. But there's a right way to do it, which is the way Jamar did it, to build impulse and to kind of have it crescendoing before you get to the TED Talk, and you're just absolutely salivating to hear what this TED Talk is about. And that's the experience that I had, which is why I listened all the way through to the TED Talk. Any thoughts on that last clip, Johnny?
I'm a bit jealous and envious of your voice, Jamar, even when you're sick and you tell us that you're like a little bit off today, because you've got a voice for podcasting. And so because I hadn't listened to the show and I had other headphones on that I listened to music on when I listened to it earlier. And that's like all I was thinking in the intro up till this point. That is like, oh, he's sick. It sounds great. And so you didn't downplay the way you sounded, which is cool. You just made the statement and then went on to it, which was really cool. Because somebody new like me coming into it was actually like really, really impressed with how good you sounded as a host. So I'll give you that. And the lead up was impeccable.
So, by the way, Bob, who's watching us live on Facebook as we do this, asked a really good question. And I thought this too. And the question was, is there a copyright issue with playing other content like a TED Talk? So there may be with certain content, but if you look at the TED Talk rules, for non-commercial purposes, you can actually do that. But you have to play the TED Talk in its entirety. So you couldn't chop it up like we're doing right now. Like they can, obviously, for TED Radio Hour, but that's different. But if you're going to use it for a podcast, if you play it in its entirety, you can do that. So the way that Jamar did it was absolutely right, because I thought that exact same thing. And before we started promoting it, I wanted to go double check and make sure that it was actually a legitimate thing to do. Yeah. Not that we don't trust you, Jamar, but, trust but verify. So we just wanted to make sure. But
exactly. So
it worked.
Yeah.
All right. So we have three takeaways. Again, the first takeaway was how Jamar used his introduction to welcome and orient listeners, to make his positioning clear. Second takeaway was how he used framing and really strong word choice to prime the audience to have a positive experience. And the third takeaway, which we don't need any additional audio clips to illustrate, is just how the creativity in this episode, how Jamar took an idea that is typically reserved for blogging, which is curation, and applied it to podcasting in a way that expounds upon his own authority and also furthers it. I mean, we've all seen blog posts that have TED Talks embedded in them, but how many podcasts have you listened to, again, outside of, something like TED Radio Hour, that have personally curated a TED Talk recommendation like this? I mean, I'm sure they're out there. I haven't heard any others, or at least I don't remember it. And it's not just, making mention of it and putting in the show notes, but actually playing the audio right there for you in the show. And that's what he did. And I think it would have been brilliant for a regular episode idea, but it was absolutely brilliant as a fill-in episode when he was sick. And, look, sometimes constraints can be blessings. And I don't know if Jamar was always planning on doing this, but it was a dynamite episode, that he did because of the illness. And I think it really showed a level of appreciation to his audience that he didn't just mail it in. He didn't do like a 4-minute episode saying why he wasn't doing an episode, didn't just rerun an old episode. He created something new. And because he did that, it inspired me to not just talk about Jamar's episode, but to actually think about different things that we need to be doing here on the Showrunner. And that's, again, one of the reasons why I wanted to go the extra mile for this episode and pull the clips. So instead of just, like you might do on a blog post, you can, pull it out and put it in a block quote, different excerpts that you like. It's a little bit more difficult to do on a podcast, but since we, kind of have the know-how and, have the programs now to do it, and I've gotten practice with them, I wanted to pull the clip so you could actually hear it, because it adds so much to the discussion. And that is absolutely a function of listening to Jamar do this and just being inspired by him taking this idea usually reserved for blogging curation and applying it to podcasting in a really creative way. So that was my third takeaway, Johnny. So in review, our three takeaways are: use your introduction. These are takeaways from Jamar's episode of Get Your Money Right, which we will have a link to in the show notes. Use your introduction to welcome and orient listeners to what makes your show different, which is essential for making your positioning clear. Number 2, use framing and strong strategic word choice to prime your audience to have a positive experience. And then number 3, take ideas that might not normally be found in podcasts and put them into your show to create a unique audio experience. And in this case, that was curating, but there are several others. Just always be on the lookout for creative ways to give something different to your audience. Because when we talk about positioning, yes, your big idea positioning, what your show is about, how you approach the topic from a big picture level is important, but you also differentiate your show with some of these little things that you do. And by having an episode like this that is really memorable and that is different, and by being a podcaster who doesn't mail it in when he's sick, but creates something special for his audience. All of these little ways separate you. And so hat tip to you, Jamar. This was an inspiring episode for me to listen to. And so we wanted to share the lessons and obviously share the episode itself. And hopefully a lot of people listen to it.
Yeah, you're at the forefront now, Jamar, because people are going to listen to this and people are going to want to make their own TED Talk episodes too. Because I don't think any of us knew that you could put a whole, as long as you don't cut it up, a whole TED Talk into something that you can broadcast yourself, and then you can have commentary around it. It's brilliant. It's really, really, really smart. So you're definitely, but you're at the forefront. You've got the differentiation with it. I love
Absolutely. Absolutely. Johnny, any final thoughts before we close up here? Other than I need to alter our intro before we make this a template.
I'm really digging the sounds, the audio experience that we're providing. I like it. It's cool. It's cool. Yeah, I like it.
Awesome. It's been fun learning how to do it over on the Assembly Call, which, that show has always kind of been my sandbox to kind of play in and try new things. And this has been, it's something that's really worked over there. So I figured we should try and bring it over here. And yeah, so far so good. So we will continue working on that. But thank you for joining us for another week of talking about how to drive meaningful results from a podcast-centered marketing strategy, because that's what we do here on the Showrunner. If you want more from us, if you want to join one of our courses, if you want to view our show archive, if you want to get on our email list, visit showrunner.fm. And I have another little note here, another little call to action, but I'm not going to read it because Johnny tells me that we should only do one. So I'm just going to reiterate, go to the website, showrunner.fm, because anything that you could possibly want to do or get a hold of us or anything, it is there at the website, showrunner.fm. We will be back with another brand new episode next week. We hope that you will be here with us. We will talk to you then.
Take care. Thanks for the cover up when I did this. There was just like a fire alarm.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just like, don't stop. And it's like, if I turn it on now, you're not even gonna be able to hear me. So I just like,
no, that was good. Because I have to flip back and forth from my notes, and when I'm using the script part of it, so I can't actually see you. Yeah, I got to figure out a better way to set it up so that I've got the screen in front, because I run into this on the Assembly Call too.
Oh, I've got both going.
Yeah, I probably need to do that.
I just do half and half for each screen.
That's what I need to do. That's what
they're really like they're really responsive. Like Google Docs goes really small and like still looks nice, and so does this will go as small as you want it to go.
Yeah, no, I need to do that. Okay, so I told folks that we would answer a couple questions for people here afterwards. So if anyone's still watching on Facebook and you want to ask a question, let us know. I'm going to open up the YouTube page too and just see if anybody's there. No,
okay,
we're still.
We didn't go to Periscope.
It didn't go to Periscope.
No.
No, it doesn't look like it did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I checked at the beginning because it didn't go to my Twitter, so I was like, going to.
Yeah, Restream and Periscope are strange.
Yeah, fair enough.
I got to figure out why that didn't work. I might have to reauthorize them. But let me go to YouTube real quick, and we'll see. Okay, so nothing coming in on Facebook. That is cool. Let me open up our YouTube page. Cool. So yeah, so I will template wise. Did you like the rest of the intro? Like how that's
awesome. I really liked the way you led in. Oh, we're still recording, but that's okay.
Yeah. No, we're still live. We're going old school, letting people in on the behind the scenes discussions.
There we go. I really liked the way. Where was it? So the tips. Can't remember. As you said it, I was like, I really, really dig that. I think it was to.
Was it referring to you as a punk rock drummer?
No. I like that too.
I feel like you just like that.
Yeah, I like that. So we're podcasting mentors, excited to be with you for another week, talking about not just how to podcast, but more specific how to drive meaningful results. I like that. And this week we're going to share these are tips that will help you create a better audio experience for your listeners, and they'll help you better define, which is something you can't just do once, but an ongoing message. Before we get to all that, no, it's to me.
Well,
Oh, maybe it was this. Whether you're a newbie or grizzled showrunner veteran, if at any point during your journey with us, you decide that you want more, that you want to get serious and take the next step as not just a podcast, but as a showrunner, we're ready for you.
we're ready for you.
I like that.
Okay,
I
so
like that a lot.
keep that, but just don't have the 2 bullets for the call to action. Make it 1.
I think so. I really, really dig that.
Okay.
So
do you think it would be going to the website or saying specifically the email list? Is going to the website too general of a call to action?
Right now, during a launch, I wouldn't think so, because it's very obvious when you land there that where to get the course at the top bar, even on a mobile device. So I like that. And if you're not ready for that, then the email opt-in is right there. But when the course isn't being launched, I think it should be for email. Again, specific action that I want you to take. That is the best experience for you.
Yeah. I like that. Okay. We will do that. I don't see any questions coming in, but just so you know, we'll kind of make that a regular part of the live broadcast. We'll always have our recording, and then, we'll hang around and answer some questions. So, maybe hit 2 or 3 questions, something like that. So if you have questions in the future, you know where to find us live. We'll be happy to answer them. Anything else, Johnny, before
it was fun.
Close up? It was fun. It always is. All right, everybody. This episode will go out next Tuesday, and then we will see you Wednesday for another live recording. You know what? Let me ask you this before we sign off.
All right.
Since we've gotten into this regular rhythm with the live broadcast, what's the point of waiting a week to release the episode? Shouldn't we just release the episode pretty soon after the live broadcast? Like the next day? It's kind of strange to be doing it a week prior when there's no real reason to do it.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah,
no,
maybe.
It's true.
So,
because we're just before, I think we did it because we were both so busy, and it gave us flexibility to let's record on Friday instead.
Yeah.
But now that we're doing it live and we're here every time at 1.
Yeah, and we're scheduling it and letting people know about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's up to the producer, I guess.
We'll see. All right, cool. So we'll do that. So this episode may go out sooner, and then we can get on a different rhythm. We like the episodes on Tuesdays, though, don't we?
I like episodes on Tuesdays.
So that's a challenge.
I don't like them on Thursdays and Fridays. That's for sure. I mean, I Thursdays decent. I put my note Thursdays, but also Mondays.
Okay. So. Well, we'll figure that out. Okay. As of right now, they'll be back next Wednesday, 1:30 Eastern, 12:30 Central, right here for Showrunner Live. See you, everybody.